Look at who you were 10 years ago. Now look at who you are today. Something's changed, right? Not in the way you expected it to change. On paper, your life feels absolutely stable. Your responsibilities are handled, your bills are paid. You have a routine which is established by the standards of society. But inside, something feels unfinished. Don't you think so? Like you paused your own story somewhere along the way. I know that feeling. I lived through it. I remember sitting in my car in the driveway for around 10 minutes just before going inside, wondering if this was it for the next 10, 15 years of my life. What happened next? My days became predictable in the worst possible way ever. Wake up, work, take care of your responsibilities, sleep, and repeat this cycle. Oh, my days turned to weeks, weeks turned to months, months turned into years. Nothing was collapsing, no, but nothing was growing either. That's a dangerous place to live. Society calls it stability, but many a times it's a slow surrender you make. We were told the second half of life is when things slow down, when you stop trying the new things, when you accept reality. That idea quietly kills ambition. The second half of life is not the ending. It's the moment you finally understand what matters in your life. First half, it's only about survival. Second half is about the ownership which you take. And ownership begins the moment you stop waiting to feel ready. So today, we stop waiting. Today, we begin the mastery. Failure isn't what stops most people, comfort does. Comfort doesn't attack you, it sedates you. You don't notice it happening, you just slowly stop pushing yourself. I remember when I started choosing convenience over growth, they were very small decisions. They were seemingly very, very harmless. I used to tell myself, start next month. I need more clarity first. I'll think it through. These sentences felt very, very intelligent. But what they do is they hide fear. Years ago, I had ideas I genuinely believed in, things I wanted to build, skills I wanted to develop, but I kept delaying actions. Not because I couldn't do it, but because comfort made delay feel reasonable. And most of the time it does. You feel pretty reasonable doing things which are in your comfort zone. That's the real danger of comfort. It makes procrastination feel logical. You convince yourself you're preparing, but you're actually postponing. The time keeps moving. In the second half of life, time feels louder. You become aware of it in the ways you never were before. Not fearfully, but honestly. You realize you don't have unlimited restarts anymore. And that realization, it can either paralyze you or wake you up. For me, it became a wake up call. Not dramatic, not emotional, just a quiet understanding. If nothing changes, nothing changes. That's the sentence, the line which changed my behavior, my life. The second half of life requires rules, not motivation. Rules. Because motivation disappears, rules stay. There was a period when I kept consuming information but avoided all the action. I read all the books, videos, plans, notes, everything. Everything but not execution. It felt very productive, but nothing in my life actually changed. That's when I realized something uncomfortable. Learning can become hiding at times. Some point you have to stop preparing and start doing things. Progress begins when repetition begins, not when inspiration arrives. Execution changes your identity. At this stage of life, energy matters more than time, and energy leaks through small things, the habits that don't serve you, endless scrolling, pointless conversations, goal you don't even care about anymore. I had to let go of things I once thought were very, very important for me. Not dramatically, just quietly, so that there is less noise and more focus on what I wanted to do. You don't need to do more than the second half. You need to remove the more from your life. That's where the clarity actually comes from. One of my biggest mistakes was waiting too long to decide. I thought careful thinking meant wisdom. Sometimes it just meant hesitation. There were opportunities I delayed and they disappeared. Not because I wasn't capable, but because I waited too long. Movement creates clarity, actions create confidence, stillness creates doubt. Even imperfect action moves your life forward. Standing still never does. Path becomes visible only after you start walking on it. Change is noticeable to you and to others around you. When you become more disciplined, people with you, they feel it. Some will support you, some won't understand you. But that's normal. There was a time when I cared too much about approval, about being agreeable, about fitting into everything. But approval never builds anything. Consistency does. Mastery always costs comfort, less distraction, more responsibility, more honesty with yourself. But you know what? There is something more powerful which replaces comfort. That's called self respect. And once that grows, you don't want to lose it again. That's when discipline becomes natural, not forced, not dramatic, just part of who you are. This is your Sunday directive. Simple, clear, immediate. Think about the one thing you've been delaying for too long. You already know what it is. Write that down. Before today ends, take the first three steps necessary. Not the perfect steps, the real ones. Send that email, buy that domain, book that trainer. Do it before the sun goes down today. The second half of life isn't approaching, you're living in it right now. Sunday is ending, Monday is coming, and the person who wakes up tomorrow depends on what you do today.